Well, 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 well. Good morning. Let's get this all going today. It'll be just myself today. Let's get this all set up here. Let's get some people coming in. There is Lucas. Good morning, Lucas. How you doing today? Good morning, AC Cruz. All right, as y'all can tell, it's going to be just me today. It's going to get a couple more minutes, get some people coming in from Michael's side, and getting some stuff finalized on my end. But yeah, happy Friday, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Let's give a good another minute, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Here we go. This is perfect. Got it. So yeah, I work obviously on Fridays, but this is a nice little moment I can just set aside for this. But let's go ahead and get this doing well. Oh, good morning. Ah, there you are. Awesome. All right, everybody, let's go and get started. Yeah, Joel is out today. He has some other responsibilities going on. But yeah, let's go and get into this. As y'all could tell by the title, everything is about what is your why. I'm sure y'all probably heard that before. It's a pretty common phrase thrown around in today's culture. It can be changed. It could be like, what is your motivation? What drives you? What is your purpose? But bottom line is, what is your why? And it's going to be separated into two parts, as usual. First part is going to be, what is your purpose as a U.S. citizen? What drives you being an American? What do you feel like your duties are as an American? What is your why? And then the second part is, what should drive you as a Christian? That can get a little more deeper. That can get really juicy. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We'll play one of my favorite, I'd say, motivational videos on YouTube. It's actually a speech that one of my favorite presidents gave, Teddy Roosevelt. Here we go.
The poorest way to face life is to face it with a sneer. There are many men who feel a kind of twisted pride and cynicism. There are many who confine themselves to criticism of the way others do what they themselves dare not even attempt. There is no more unhealthy being, no man less worthy of respect than he who either really holds or feigns to hold an attitude of sneering disbelief toward all that is great and lofty, whether in achievement or in that noble effort which, even if it fails, comes to second achievement. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
That is one of my favorite snippets from history. Back when I was a teacher, I showed that clip a lot. Because a lot of my students struggled, not just educationally, but just emotionally, spiritually even. A lot of my students struggle just getting through life, especially nowadays. We had it good. I'm assuming we're all around the same age range, give or take. We had it pretty good back then. Now, these kids are surrounded by so much garbage on a daily basis. And it's so easy to become disheartened, unmotivated, depressed, struggling. And so many times, I would encourage my students with this clip and explain to them that at the end of the day, no one else really matters. It's you. You are in that arena. You are the one that's struggling. You are the one that's still here. You keep going. But this session isn't just about basic motivation. This is about understanding what is your why. It's like, yeah, sure, I woke up today, I went to work, I did my job, came home. Yes, but why? Right? Sure, you went to school, got those degrees, you did this thing for someone, cool, but why? Reminds me of the Animaniacs cartoon back in the 90s, back when cartoons were good. And there was some character who she was like this little girl, she always asked the other characters in the show, yeah, but why? But why? But why? And we as adults should have that childlike curiosity always. Yes, but why? Why do you do this? Why are you here? What is your vision? What truly drives you every single day? And so on that same topic, when we transition to being an American, it's very easy nowadays to be overwhelmed with just stuff on social media, the news about ICE doing their job, about, you're going to see narratives of, oh, all these innocent people are being hunted down. It's like, how about you follow the law? There's an idea. How about you actually become a US citizen? How about you go through the process like everyone else had to? That's just my rant there. But on that same topic, what is your why to becoming a US citizen? And once you are a citizen, what drives you every single day? Why are you a US citizen? Let me pull something here from Lucas. Identify your why before it becomes because. That's really good, Lucas. That's fantastic. I'll say it again. Identify your why before it becomes because. That's really good. That's the $50 winner right there. And so when you apply that to being a US citizen, you could see it as, okay, what are my duties as a US citizen? Or what are my responsibilities as a US citizen? It should be, what is your why as a US citizen? It's very easy to protest. Which is your right. It's very easy to complain and gripe and have problems with how things are going. We all have our own opinions, our own views. But it's very different if you spent your whole life here and you have no idea what the rest of the world is like. Usually you see people saying how horrible things are about America as they're tweeting it on their phone or as they're recording themselves on their phone without being afraid of getting stoned to death, without being afraid of getting executed, without being afraid of getting sent somewhere else to a labor camp. All these things we have as blessings as being US citizens, people just don't appreciate anymore. So let me bring this to the stage real quick. This is a short video well, it came out about 9 years ago, but it does a good job at just showing a little glimpse of people becoming U.S. citizens. And when they follow the right path, when they go through the time and the length and the waiting and the process, when they go through all of it and they finally become U.S. citizens, that's special. Not just because they worked hard for it, not just because it took time and patience, but because they knew their why. They knew exactly their drive, their motivation. They knew the purpose leading up to all of it.
A very wonderful occasion. It's the only time everyone comes to court and leaves happy. And for that reason, it's enjoyable as well as for its own sake. We're all immigrants on some level. I didn't personally immigrate, but I can trace my family story that way.
It's gotten to the point where I've lived here so long that I want to have a say and an influence in what goes on. So I'm to the point where I really want to be voting. I want to have my voice heard in the ins and outs of legislation that's coming through. So that's kind of the main part of the main reason why.
It makes applying for jobs that much easier too, because I'm an engineering major and there's a lot of government jobs that are available to engineering majors, but I can't apply for them unless I'm a citizen.
So obviously that was just a small snippet, but those people are just random people help explain the best of their abilities what their why was. Now, for me, I was born in America. I've been a U.S. citizen this whole time. I've also had the blessings in being able to travel. I've been all over the world. I served my country in the military. And every time I came home, I just appreciated one more thing about being an American citizen. And every time I came home, it just increased my why. Fast forward to today. I'm a husband. I have a job. I have two sides of two great, amazing families. And some days are definitely struggles, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all that. But ultimately, I always come back to my why. And so if there was an answer to that question from me personally is, what is your why? There's two parts to it. If you're asking me just as a U.S. citizen, as a patriot, my why is to exist in a world where I can provide for my family and live a life that has rights. That's a key part there. Live a life that has rights. Rights that are not given by a government, but given by my God. Full stop, end of story, no more discussion. That's my why. Now, as a Christian, it gets a little bit deeper, right? As a Christian, that's a lot harder to answer, isn't it? What is your why? And this is when we are going to transition to this part. Now, I'll be honest, this might be hard for some of y'all to hear, but this is why we're truly here. Yes, we're Americans. Yes, there's a lot of stuff to talk about for politics and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not about that. At the end of the day, everything always comes back to who's really in charge. Who is our true authority? Not you, not me, not my wife. She might debate that, but not my wife. It's our one true king. So I'm going to play a little clip from my recent sermon. Not my sermon, but from my pastor's recent sermon this past Sunday. The pastor of my church is really good. And he's the type of guy who will spend hours just dissecting one verse. Like he will break down every single word, explain the context, the meaning of words from Greek, Aramaic, Hebrew, and he goes all out. And I think you'll see that. This whole sermon here was just off of one verse. But I'm going to show you the first few minutes, and he does a really good job at getting right to the core of the issue. So again, as we start watching this, think about it. What is your why as a Christian? What should drive you every day as a Christian? Here we go.
Let me start by asking you this question. What's the motive that drives your Christian life? Really ask yourself that question. What is the motive that drives your Christian life? Or in today's lingo, what's your why? There are many wrong motives for living the Christian life. Some of them are always wrong in every context. Others of them are only wrong if they are your primary motive for living the Christian life. Let me give you some common wrong motives that Christians have. First of all, and this is obvious, as a bribe to get something from God. Of course, the most egregious form of this is the false gospel, the prosperity gospel that says, come to Jesus and he'll give you health and wealth and prosperity. But the more subtle forms of this happen among us who reject that. You can live your Christian life in kind of this superstition that if I do X, then God's going to give me Y, something I want. Maybe it's a spouse or a family or the kind of life that in my own mind is what I want. A second wrong motive is your own glory, to gain reputation and respect from others. Pride. Some people live their Christian life for the terribly wrong motive of they just want to feel good about themselves. They don't like how they feel, the guilt and the shame of being controlled by some sin, so they want that gone from their lives, and it's all about pride. For others, another wrong motive is repayment. Of course, you can never do this, but some people live as if their holy living pays God back for his goodness and grace. Another wrong motive, if it is your sole motive, is duty. Solely to fulfill what you see as an obligation to God.
At this point, it gets good because, as you can tell, duty is not bad at all. It's only when you do it just that. It's when you make that your sole focus and nothing else.
Another wrong primary motive is obedience. If solely you seek to obey God's commands and that's all that drives you, that's all that moves you, because that can be done for a lot of wrong reasons. The Pharisees are a great indication of that. Now, I'm going to give you two more that may shock you. I'm going to explain them, so don't immediately write me off as a heretic, okay? But here are a couple of other wrong motives if they are your primary motive. Love for God and others. If that's solely your motive, if that's your true why. God's glory, solely to bring glory to God. Now, I told you I would shock you, so stay with me. We must love God and we must love others. Those are the greatest commandments. And we must live for God's glory as the primary goal of our lives. The chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. That's absolutely true. But what's the why for loving God and loving others?
That's where it gets to. What is the why? Again, these aren't bad, the duty, obedience, love, but what's the why behind it? And are you just doing that, or are you doing those together? And so he skips ahead to the main point. That's where I want to get to right now for y'all.
Who live might.
So he's quoting 2 Corinthians 5:14-15, and he's explaining what Paul says. How Paul explains what the why should be for all Christians.
No longer live for themselves, but for him who died and rose again on their behalf. There it is. In explaining his motive, Paul provides a pattern for our own.
Here we go.
The controlling motive, listen carefully, the controlling motive for the Christian life must always be a profound grasp of Christ's love for us. That lies back of everything else.
That's it. That's it. That's the why. That is what every Christian should have as their day-to-day drive. Here's the actual verse that Paul's explaining to the people in Corinth. He basically says to everyone down there, he's like, look, because Christ did this for us, because he loved us this much, we have to spend our lives grasping that. That's it. So as Christians, what is our why? Our why should be to grasp Christ's love for us. Now, as we know, this is easier than it sounds. This isn't as easy as it sounds, okay? This is not something you can just do in one day. This is something that takes a lifetime to understand. It's not just about doing good for others. It's not just about obeying. It's definitely not about prosperity. It's definitely not about pride at all. The why for Christians is every day I should seek to understand Christ's love for me. That's it. Come to grips with it, understand it, grasp it, analyze it, dissect it, whatever you want to say. And in doing so, that will then lead to obedience, love, selflessness, all the other things. But you first have to start with understanding Christ's love for you. And this is a topic that I could spend hours talking about, because when you start thinking about it, just pondering it, you then start realizing why this is the one true path. Because think about it. Every other major religion out there, every other major belief system had their archetype, their prophet, their authority, their person in charge, right? For the Mormons, it's Joseph Smith. For the Muslims, it's the Prophet Muhammad. If it's Buddhist, it's the Buddha. If it's Scientologist, it's L. Ron Hubbard, whatever. The point is, every other religion and belief system had some person in charge, some main person, main dude, right? But what happened? Well, they lived at some point and they died. That's it. Their lives were not perfect. They all sinned. They all made mistakes. I mean, I can write a whole book on how many mistakes Muhammad made. Yeah, of course, that could get you into some dicey situations, but go for it. You can go into a whole litany on how many mistakes Moses made, if you want to dig into Judaism. Moses was an amazing historical figure. He was God's chosen, but he was still human. He was still flawed. He still made mistakes. But then there was Christ. Then there was Jesus Christ, an absolute rebel in his time. But this guy was completely different. This is the one thing every other person who's not a Christian can't really argue against. They can say they don't like Christianity for other reasons, but they can never disprove Christ. And here's why. Because Jesus Christ is the only person who was born from a virgin, lived a perfect, sinless life, died a horrific death, by the way, that everyone saw. But then what happened? He came back. He conquered death. And his resurrection, which has been historically proven through multiple sources that aren't even like pro-Christian sources. Jesus Christ's life is one of the most, actually, is the most historically documented timelines out there. All those things combined, when Christianity just so happens to be the only religion where their leader, their king, was born, lived, died, and conquered death. No one else can do that. No one else can claim that. It then starts to make you asking those questions. Is, well, what? Okay, well, then what is the why then? The why is understanding Christ's love for us. He did all of this. God became Christ. God sent his son because he loved the world. All these things, again, it will take a lifetime to understand. And it's not something you can just grasp in one reading or one thought session. Like, it takes time. And so as we go through our lives, Patriots, as we go through this life as Christians, I encourage everyone to really think about that. What is my why as a Christian? What truly drives me? Is it to feel included? Is it to just go through the motions and go to a church and look like a good person? Is it to get what you want? Is it to do good works? Or is it simply to wake up, live every day in order to understand Christ's love for me, for you, for everyone? That's it. But that one task, when you really start thinking about it, it may paralyze you. It may make you stop for a moment and be like, but when you do that, though, that automatically will influence your actions. It will influence the way you live every day. It will influence the way you speak, the way you act, the way you respond to situations, everything. And that's the beauty of it. So, as we start closing out today's session, let's wrap things up. What is your why? Ask yourself that right now. What is my why? Do I wake up just so I can have coffee? Do I get through each day just to go back to bed? Do I do things just to please people? Do I do things just to please myself? Or do I truly have a deeper purpose just for getting out of bed every morning? Or is there something deeper? Is there something more real? And the hope is that the deeper answer, the more real answer is, I wake up every day so that I can better understand Christ's love for me. That's it. That's it. That's the summary. That's everything. If you can say that, as broken as you are, as flawed as you are, as long as you can say that, then you're on the right track. That's not me saying it. Don't take my word for it. Take it straight from Paul. I'll close this out for us. For the love of Christ controls us. Having concluded this, that one died for all, therefore all died. And he died for all, so that those who live would no longer live for themselves, but for him who died and rose on their behalf. Bottom line, you can't kill what's already dead. Might sound kind of dark. We're already dead, but we're dead to the life we had before Christ. And so, as you go through each new day, remember that. Our goal is just every day, our why is to better understand Christ's love for us. On that note, Patriots, have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend. Next week, I'll see you with Joel. God's in charge. Take care.